Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Master Duel Going Rogue. We are taking a look at Necrovalley today, and I've really put together a pretty powerful and consistent Necrovalley deck for people who want to go first in Master Duel. Taking it from the top, we've got Nib, we've got Gravekeeper's Heretic, which is unaffected by other card effects as long as Necrovalley is on the field. It's really good since the whole point of this is to stop them from special summoning. A lot of decks right now don't run something that can out an 1800 beater without special summoning. Gravekeeper's Commandant is there to fetch Necrovalley. He's one of 9 ways to get Necrovalley in our hands. That's 3 right there. There's another 3 right there. There's just Necrovalley draw and then Terraforming. We want Necrovalley on the field, and we have 10 cards to help facilitate that. Gravekeeper Spiritualist is going to be a very powerful effect while Necrovalley is on the field. You can use her to go ahead and fusion summon using material from your hand or your field into Gravekeeper Supernaturalist. We'll go over him when we get there. Gravekeeper's Nobleman is a way to get a card on the field. If you brick, you can set her and hopefully she gets destroyed by battle. Gravekeeper Headman is another great card. He'll fetch back your Spiritualist and or your Commandant. He'll also get Gravekeeper's Heretic, but if you've got these as options, go for them. 2 max C per standard. I don't run 3, it's too bricky. Harpy's Feather Duster, I really like, just for the soul trance of getting rid of all the spells, guys. Necrovalley Throne will let you fetch a Gravekeeper monster and add it to your hand, Commandant to your target, if Necrovalley is not on the field. Otherwise, Spiritualist is your next primary target with that. We're on 2 Pot of Duality. We don't special summon a lot in this deck, except during our opponent's turn, so it's really good to get the cards in your hand like Necrovalley, right? Another part of the Necrovalley engine. We're on 1 Ragakai. We're on 2 Royal Tributes. Get the monsters out of your opponent's hand. Terraforming to go fetch Necrovalley. 2 Super Polys, of which we have a couple targets in the graveyard or in our extra deck for. We've got Hidden Temples of the Necrovalley, which is the whole key to this deck actually working beyond Necrovalley. Hidden Temples of the Necrovalley stop special summoning. It's a floodgate. Yeah, you can special summon Necrovalley monsters, Gravekeeper monsters. That's all it's there for, and it does its job extremely well, and we have a fetch for it. Necrovalley is, of course, stop card effects in the graveyard. Graveyards in the cards in the graveyard can't be banished, and we'll go ahead and negate anything that changes their effect or type, which I still find weird, but I don't care. Necrovalley is there to do exactly what it's supposed to do, which is shut down graveyard summoning. We're on 3 copies of Awakened Dragon, and we've got a very stellar extra deck that goes with that. We're on 2 copies of Crackdown to steal our opponent's monsters. We're on 2 copies of Skill Drain. Yes, this whole deck is designed to floodgate and get them to scoop. And we're on 3 Solemn Judgments. I want the Omni Negates. Hitting up the extra deck, we've got Naturia Exterio. Most common way they're going to get rid of Necrovalley is by sweeping the whole field. If you have Awaken the Dragon, this card becomes your next best friend. Negate all them spells, negate all them traps. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon is going to be our super poly target. Protoplant Dragostipelia is going to be a super poly target, mostly helpful against branded fusion, but also if we know they're going to beat over our Supernaturalist, having that as the target is not the worst thing on the world because we'll still out their monster. Supernaturalist is a protector for your Necrovalley. It's also going to be very important to fetch Necro cards, and I'm talking mostly in this case Hidden Temples of the Necrovalley. During the end phase, if you activate its effect during the main phase, you can add a card from your hand or from your deck to your hand. In this case, we will always target Hidden Temples, and then if you have another Gravekeeper in your hand, even if they out Supernaturalist, you can still set up the lock. Muddragon of the Swamp is just a generic target for Super Poly if we need it. Baron de Fleur is going to be one of our Awaken the Dragon targets. In fact, most of our Awaken the Dragon targets are actually unaffected by other card effects or not able to be destroyed by certain cards and effects. Those targets are going to be Baron de Fleur, Blackwing Full Armor Master, Ultimate Falcon, and Boral Sword Dragon, and Infitract. Fortress Megaclops. Those are going to be our actually top tier Waken the Dragon targets. If Naturia Exterio is unable to be targeted for some reason, if they like Waken the Dragon, but Supernaturalist is protecting Necrovalley, they'll sometimes not realize that that's how this card works, and they'll Lightning Storm and trigger your Waken the Dragon, and then you've got Supernaturalist on the field, and then you've also got to deal with, oh crap, now I've got a Raid Raptor, or now I've got a Mega Clops that I also have to try to find an out for. It's very funny, and it's very good. Beguska is actually one of the best stall cards in the game, and if for some reason we can't get anything really going very easily, we will use Beguska to lock out their deck until we can draw into something, hopefully. Boral Sword is because normally we would run access code, but because of Necrovalley being our primary focus, we don't want cards that target the graveyard and move them somewhere else. That's illegal. So Boral Sword is a great way to kind of do some monster removal, and he's also summonable by Waken the Dragon. And then Nightmare Unicorn and Nightmare Cerebrus, those are just staples in Master Duel. I'm not going to go over them. So I really want to thank everybody for taking a look at this deck. This deck is very, very fun to play. It is very, very tech to play. You have to know what you're doing. And yes, you're going to be like, there's floodgates. Yes, there's floodgates. In the current meta, you got to slow them down. And this deck will actually has win conditions beyond just the floodgates. So you can still win even if you get outed. Alright, so we're on our first meta deck, and we are looking at a Sword Soul Tenyi who passes on turn 1. Made no sense to me, but I agree and accept the fact that they can pass on turn 1. Straight into Necrovalley, and then doing the weirdest thing ever, activating Max C for no reason. Okay, set 3, and chip in. So we're going to kind of speed through their turn. Their turn was not much to actually look at. They set 1 and passed. Okay, I do top deck the Spiritualist. Spiritualist comes out. Spiritualist goes straight into Supernaturalist. You can see I'm keeping the Commandant in my hand. That's because we might need it to fetch a Necrovalley, and we already had the guard on the field. Okay, Raigakai. Okay, straight into Crackdown. I will borrow that. Necrovalley Throne, and if you've seen this before, you'll see it again. With Skill Drain on the field, he becomes a 2300 beater, which is extremely nice. Heretic is really good for that. I didn't attack with Sword Soul of Taya because if you don't know, Crackdown stops you from attacking, but Commandant's going to be more than enough to chip in here and end this. And if Sword Soul Tenyi doesn't have access to the grave, you know what happens? Nothing. There was their next out, and it would have worked, except it didn't. And that's why having the Omni Negates is super important. You have to have the ability to stop them from mass clearing your field. You know how I like to follow up owning a Sword Soul Tenyi deck? By owning another Sword Soul Tenyi deck. Here we get the benefit of starting with 2 Max Cs, which is going to be the key to how we win this. Put up Necrovalley. Set Waken the Dragon. Get the Spiritualist on the field. In the draw phase, Max C. End phase. I want people to tell me why we allow Max C to still be a thing in any format. Okay? Oh look. I have the Heretic. Boom. Boom. Their draw phase. Max C. I'm sorry, you can't play the game if you can't summon. Discarded Adahara to the grave. Yep. And then here I go extra toxic and summon Beguska. I had to. Their next turn I was no Max Cs they were going to play. And if they're going to play Yu-Gi-Oh, I want to out them. Now, I don't understand why people don't realize that you cannot activate effects in the graveyard means you cannot activate effects in the graveyard, but you will get people doing that an awful lot. And here's Baron. And then here I did something I didn't actually have to do. I went to Crackdown it. And I should have just let him burn his ability, but I wanted to make sure he couldn't tribute it off into something else. And then there it is, scoop. If you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, guys. Necrovalley stops you from playing meta decks, which is why it's an anti-meta rogue strategy. So this little ditty was interesting. This guy was on a Buster Blader Boot Sector Dragon hybrid, and I thought it was extremely weird. But you'll see, here we go, Commandant into Necrovalley. Again, getting Necrovalley on the field as fast as possible is your bread and butter. And then there it is, Hidden Temples of the Necrovalley. Lightning Storm. Okay, well, bad things happened. I went for Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon. I figured 3,500, there's no way he's going to out this. It was the safest bet, I believe. The only other one that would have even come close is probably Infinitrack, but I didn't know if he had any monster removal, so 3,500 and the ability to stop them. But here's Striker Dragon. Striker Dragon comes. I'm not that familiar with Rocket, but Noct Division Dragon. I am familiar with Boot Sector Launch. Dragoony. But look at all these cards he's giving me. He's not really getting any closer to a solution to the problem. What he's doing is he's feeding me the ability to recover. And that's what he's doing this entire time. So there's Dragon Ravine. Pitch Dragon. Pitch another Dragon. Special summon a Rocket Monster. Okay. We're going through this weird Rocket. There's another Boot Sector Launch. There's a Pot of Duality. Hope that doesn't come into play. There's a Super Poly. If he would have stopped a long time ago, we would have been looking a lot worse. Oh my goodness, there's our ability to get Necrovalley back. He did it. He outed it. 3,600 outs it. Yep. But look what he left on the field. And look what I drew. So here we go. Commandant. Banish all monsters on the field except monsters. Well, we're going to take away his ability to control level 8 right here. That's the only reason I super polyed, by the way. There was no other reason to super poly other than now he doesn't control a level 8 and now he can't banish anything. And I still get my Necrovalley. He goes straight into Buster Blader. So he's going to get Buster Blader and what is it, Buster Dragon or Destruction Dragon? I kind of understand these cards, but I'm not a big Buster Blader enthusiast. Yeah, I think it's Buster Dragon it is. And then he immediately tries to set up something that I think is weird. Like, why are you trying to do that? I can just destroy your cards. And even if I couldn't, his odds of winning were very low because I had the duality. I actually could have activated it. I chose not to because I want to keep it in reserve in case they out the Necrovalley. Boot Sector Launch right here is where he scoops because he realizes you can't target monsters in the graveyard. Guys, Necrovalley is a shutdown deck. And it's in rogue status instead of meta status, again, because we lack the mass summoning required with this deck. If this deck got 1 or 2 starters, or God forbid a Link monster, this deck would be seriously up for meta contention. And Gravekeepers have been around, I think, since set 5 or 6. They're not going anywhere. These are very, very old school monsters that occasionally get a little bump. And you can see what happens if you understand your cards and you know how to make a deck out of them. Alright, everybody, that's the 3 duels. Hope you enjoyed watching them. Have a good rest of your day, and please remember, like, comment, subscribe.